Hey everybody, this is Grant Chachere Grant Football here, joined by my co-host Jace LeJeune. We were experiencing some technical difficulties at first. That's why we're kind of smiling and everything because it's just funny. I don't know, it's always kind of funny to see us screw up. We're friends and everything. Um, but anyway, we had a huge weekend of semifinals. A huge semifinals weekend here in Louisiana. A lot of great games, a lot of epic finishes. Actually went to two of them. Meanwhile,
Yeah.
Jace kind of went to some duds, I guess you could say. Games we thought
Well,
would be much better. There was some drama. There
yeah,
was
there
some
was some
drama.
drama. There was some
There
drama
was some
towards
drama.
the
I'll
end
say
game I
that.
went to. Wasn't
Yeah,
exactly a
there
total
wasn't.
dud.
Yeah, it wasn't a dud, but I think he thought their games would be a little better. I mean, my
Hmm.
games, the games I went to went to
Yeah,
overtime.
I'm
It
jealous.
happened under the same, and they also kind of were very similar in some capacity, actually.
Yeah, you're right.
But yeah, Jason, what are your overall thoughts about this weekend?
Yeah, Grant, it was so epic. We had to wait for 2 days for some of these games to finish. Right? Is that
Yeah.
that's how epic it was. But yeah, Mother Nature wasn't too friendly with Louisiana for these semifinal games. But hey, I mean, if you're trying to get the right to play in an indoor stadium, might as well have some fun with Mother Nature, right?
Mhm.
But still, a lot of really good football, and really like pretty much the central theme of the playoffs, Grant, a lot of surprising upsets, really, and
Yeah.
some surprising teams that have gone to the dome. Probably more than in years past, I feel like. So we got some really good matchups in the dome. We're going to talk about it, obviously in a different show, but I mean, I'm excited to talk about and break down how we got to that point for this upcoming week.
Let's kick back and relax and enjoy this. Let's talk about these epic matches. First, to start off with the game I actually went to, Zachary and Dutchtown. Dutchtown was up 28-13. Zachary's offense was kind of sputtering. They're turning the ball over. Carter Hainberry again was a difference maker in the running game. He had 3 touchdowns for 78 yards. But then the game was called off. Well, not called off. It was postponed or was in delay because of the weather. And then
Mm-hmm.
they decided to postpone and hold it the next day since both teams were in Baton Rouge. It wasn't that big of a deal. So, hey, let's just move it to the next day.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that greatly benefited Zachary
Oh
because
yeah.
it's a new day. You get to wake up. It's a new day. You kind of figure out, okay, this is what we need to fix. So it
Mm-hmm.
gave Zachary extra time to fix what they needed to fix heading into the day. And you could kind of tell something was eerie. Now, it was kind of gloomy outside. It was gray
Mm-hmm.
because it was raining pretty much the whole entire night.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but then it looked like Zachary had a little bit more edge to him. It looked like they didn't weren't.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously they were stressed, but it wasn't like
Sure.
it wasn't like you're in the moment of losing 28-13 against a team that you feel like we shouldn't be losing 2 touchdowns by. And
Mm-hmm.
the game gets kicked off. Dutchtown gets the ball first, and then Zachary's able to stop them. Then Zachary kind of puts together their drive, and then Cam Thomas scores a
Yeah.
35-yard touchdown, and boom, the game kind of shifts a little bit. Tyson George gets a 2-point conversion. The very next possession, Dutchtown, like I think it was second or third. I think it was the second play in the drive. Ethan Akuin, he threw the ball to the receiver. It went off his hands while he was trying to make the diving catch, and just miraculously just went in the air. And
I
Jeremiah
saw it.
Smith, the sophomore corner at Zachary, picked it off and just raced 40 yards towards the end zone. And then Zachary stops touchdown again. Zachary drives on the field. They're in great. They're in the goal. I mean, they're basically on like what I believe it was the 9 yard line. So it's a chip
Mm-hmm.
shot field goal. It uh, Rafael Acosta.
Mm-hmm.
He goes for the I believe it was 17 plus 9. That is 28 yards. It's a
Mm-hmm.
28-yard field goal, and it looked like it was good. It may have been a
Mm-hmm.
miss. It may have been a make. We don't know. The rest were a
Mm-hmm.
miss.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to overtime.
Mm-hmm.
Dutchtown gets the ball first. Can't get anything going. They have to kick the field goal. It gets blocked by Stetson Bell. Very next drop, the very next possession Zachary has. All they got to do is score points to win the game. Acosta goes up for a second time, drills it, team's
Mm-hmm.
mobbing him. He's pretty, like, everyone's celebrating. He's pretty emotional because he feels like now, okay, I almost screwed my team's chance to make it to the dome. Now I
Mm-hmm.
am the reason why we made it to the dome.
Right.
And it was pretty awesome scene. Jish, what are your quickly kind of what are overall thoughts
Sure.
about Zachary? Because we had kind of rid off Zachary after they lost his Catholic,
Mm-hmm.
that overtime thriller we both went to, and what how do you see them faring against a very good Russian team going to the state championship?
Yeah. Now Rustin's played some pretty good offenses, right? They played LCA and
Yeah.
really shut them down. But I'm going to be very intrigued how they do against this receiving core Zachary has, right?
Mhm.
Because it's not often Rustin gets to prepare for the to try to cover a 6'7", 240-pound receiver. Like he's pretty much a unicorn. You don't see that, right? And Trey Des Green. And then, but they have Tyson George too as well. They got a really good receiving core over there at Zachary, and that's going to be a unique challenge for him. I'm very excited to see that, and really seeing this coaching matchup. I mean, Coach David Burton, you mentioned, with 9 semifinal appearances in 10 years. And I believe this is going to be the fifth trip to the Superdome for them. So he's been very experienced in this big game. So Russ and I know they were there last year, but it should be a very good chess match between really both those two coaching staffs. I feel like those are two of the better coaching staffs up there, and that was a big advantage when I heard that Dutchtown got up to that 28-13 lead and the game had to move to another day. I guarantee you, David Burton did not sleep at all. I bet he was up the whole entire night trying to figure out, okay, I bet the whole coaching staff for Zachary pretty much spent the night in the football facility, pretty much, trying to come up with a plan, trying to tell their guys how to tell their guys to get back in that one. They have a quarter and about a minute and 30 seconds of change to work with. It was still a two possession game, so I think that couldn't have happened at a better time. And really, Zachary, I've really praised their coaching staff the last couple of years, and you give them that much time to figure something out. Um, that really benefited Zachary, and we just had a feeling that you give them that much time over a day's worth to figure out how to deal with the next 14, 13, 14 minutes. I knew there was a way they'll get themselves back in that game, and they were able to do that and claw their way back in it, and obviously win the game in overtime. So unfortunate, obviously, for Dutchtown, right? Have that lead 28-13, put yourself in position to pretty much win the game. I mean, you only had one quarter. All the momentum was going towards Dutchtown's way, and then Mother Nature interfered. So very disheartening for Dutchtown. Really feel for them, but hey, you gotta give credit to Zachary for being able to bounce back like they did.
Yeah, a lot of people like I say, there's a Calico voodoo, but this is just
Yeah.
another Zachary type of situation where Zachary has their backs against the wall, and they just come back and come through for the victory, including some voodoo themselves. They had some voodoo
Mhm.
themselves. The ball magically landed off the kid's arm and landed right
Yeah.
into Jeremiah Smith's hands. I mean, that was an incredible play. But also moving on to speaking of Ruston, they beat Vanderbilt 28-7.
Hmm.
Nate Shepard's been the talk of the state so far as he's rushed for, I believe, over 200 yards in every single playoff game that
Hmm.
the Skippers have played. And the Ruston defense showed why they're the best defense in the state.
Hmm.
They held Nate Shepard to just 69 yards.
Yeah.
Noise. Yeah, of course I got to make some immature joke. We're
Of
12
course,
boys.
Grant.
We're 12. But Rustin's rush attack was pretty effective. Um, Jordan Hayes and Dylan Brooks were the reason why the Rustin offense was able to put some points on the board. Not nearly as much as previous games where they scored
Sure.
40, 50 points, but enough point. You had scored more points than the other team.
Hmm.
Uh, Jordan Hayes ran for 185 yards and 2 touchdowns and 19 carries, and Dylan Brooks had 85 yards and a touchdown. Another huge performance by those two backs. Um, So, Jace, what do you have to say about this game and how well the Ruston defense played, especially going against one of the top running backs in the state, who has been completely destroying every single defense that he has faced, and then also, how excited are you for this Ruston Zachary matchup, man?
Yeah, We're actually going to put a poll up probably tomorrow about what game are you going to be most excited to see, and we're going to get people to vote in the dome. But this is up there when we talk
Mm-hmm.
about Zachary and Rustin. I'm really excited about this game. Um, Thought it was either going to be Rustin and Destrehan or Rustin and Zachary, any kind of combination of those three teams. I pretty much expected, and that's pretty much what we got in the Superdome. We talk about Rustin's defense, man. I mean, they're so good. I know I saw your tweet, your repost on my bro, and him just blowing up that play. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my god. I mean that was just ridiculous seeing him just blow up a play like that. But you got him and Jordan Guidry, Jay Mayfield. I mean that's one heck of a defense. I'm looking forward to. I was very entertained seeing them, even though they lost against Esterham last year. I was very entertained to see that defense play in the dome last year. I'm looking forward to seeing them again, and hopefully they can go overcome the hump. But the biggest thing is like the line of scrimmage, right? For Ruston, can they run the football? And really, that's going to be the key for me. I'm sure we're going to talk more about that championship matchup later on because we have a couple of shows coming up. But I'm going to be very. My biggest key is how Ruston can do running the football on Zachary. And remember, that's how they really got Zachary last year in the semifinal game last year. So I think that's going to be the key again. If Zachary can make Ruston throw the football, I really like Zachary. But if Ruston controls the tempo and has a lot of success running the football, I think Ruston's going to win the state championship. So that's going to be really fun. I mean, all the different chess pieces on both sides of football. That's going to be really fun one to go and watch.
Yeah, we'll also talk more about the match, go into more detail of the matchups
Yeah.
tomorrow. We
Yeah.
will have we will be actually be later talking to Eric Held of
Yeah.
the LHSCA.
Yeah.
He's also a longtime coach in Louisiana,
Mm-hmm.
and he also knows his ball, man. And
Yeah. Oh yeah.
we're gonna have that show for you guys tomorrow. We're actually
Mm-hmm.
talking to him tonight. Me and Jess are pretty excited.
Yeah.
But yeah. So look out for that. But in the meantime, we're moving on to the select semifinal games for
Mm-hmm.
Division One.
Yeah.
Acadiana defeated Carr 30-24. Catholic defeated Rummel 20-16. Jace was actually at the Catholic
Yeah.
Rummel game. Let's start there.
Yeah.
Daniel Beal had two 60-yard touchdown runs.
I know.
People are calling him Daniel Wheels
Wheels.
Beal.
Yeah.
I don't.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like. I don't like it. I like to
I
call him.
don't like it either,
I
but
like to call him Demon Time. Daniel
yeah.
Demon
Mm-hmm.
Time Beal, dude.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sticking
Yeah.
with that. I like that nickname. You know why? Because at the beginning of the year, I thought he kind of started off slow. It's not the expect. We were kind of waiting for Daniel Beal to make that jump because it's senior
Mm-hmm.
year.
Mm-hmm.
Your fourth year playing high school football. You've been
Yeah.
doing this since you're a freshman, and we've been kind of waiting for him to take that hump.
Mm-hmm.
And early in the season wasn't he kind of struggling a little bit. I mean, then again, he also went to some really good teams in Warren Easton, STM, and
You high.
U High. Yeah, it's U High especially. And then when he got in the league play, things started clicking, and
Mm-hmm.
then the Zachary game happened, and you started to see how much Daniel Beal's made a jump, and he's carried that all the way into the playoffs. So, Jace,
Yeah.
describe what happened during that game, and including the controversy because you were there. You
Yeah.
saw the pretty much the whole second half. So
Yeah.
why don't you get going?
Yeah.
Hurry
So
up. I'm joking.
so about that, Grant, it wasn't towards the level of the position Zachary was in because Zachary was down by 2 touchdowns, but
Right.
in a way, Catholic was frustrated, right? And I'm sure they didn't get any sleep either because the game was tied at 14, and based on talking to a lot of people that were there last night, Catholic should have had a way bigger lead than being tied at 14 and in the fourth quarter. They just a lot of mistakes really allowed Rummel to stay in the game. But it was kind of like the same thing. It was weird. It was very eerie, right? Not as many, it was a pretty good crowd considering the circumstances, but it was not as much people. It's in the middle of the day. You only got one quarter to play. It was very eerie, heading into it. And then everybody just steps on the field, and all of a sudden the crowd gets into it. But it was really really weird setting. But Daniel Beal, on that first drive, Catholic had forced a 3-and-out, and then they got the ball back, and it looked like they're going to get 3-and-out as well. But Catholic actually faked a punt on 4th down. That's a play that everybody pretty much forgot about, because there's going to be plays obviously we're going to talk about. But they went for on 4th down with the fake punt, and that got them another set of downs. But they got to 4th down again, and guess whose name they called on them? 4th downs, like 4th and 7. They just threw pretty much a jump ball in the end zone to Brooks Wright. And if we talk about Daniel Beal, and that's the reason why they're Catholics in the spot, the number 2 guy, the reason why they're in the spot right now is Brooks Wright, with the way he's been playing. I mean, obviously he had the touchdown catch to beat John Curtis in the quarterfinals, and he pretty much carried that on with a huge 4th down catch. Catholic went up 21-14. And then we're going to talk about the controversial play everybody's talking about. Very next drive, Rummel takes a deep shot in the corner of the end zone. And for me, it was a really good effort by the receiver to have a chance to make that grab. I mean, because really live, I thought it was going to be overthrown. I mean, just seeing it right there, I was like, oh, this pass is, I don't think it really has a shot. But I mean, I gotta give credit to him for making that catch. I'll bring you the guy's name momentarily, but the referee ruled it an incomplete pass, and so live, and because I was pretty much at the position where the referee was at when the referee that made the call, and from my angle, it looked like he did not control it, and that's full speed. You gotta keep in mind, people were like slowing down the play every inch by inch, second by second, millisecond. But it looked live full speed. He didn't catch it. And but you go back and watch it, and I went back immediately after the play. I was like, did he catch it? And I went back after it, and I was like, yeah. I mean, he had a good. I mean, he caught it. Now the thing was, what the referee saw was once he hit the ground, the ball started moving a whole lot. But the receiver still had it. Like, the ball never touched the ground. It still was in his possession, but the way he landed on the football, the way the ball moved, the referee thought that he didn't have clear possession of the football. So it's one of those things. And I was talking to Richie as well from WGNO. He caught a great view of that play as well. And we were both discussing it. It's one of those things that if it was called a touchdown on the field, I would have completely understood. If it was called incomplete on the field, I would have understood. That was a really tough play for the referee to make in that call. It's bang bang. It could have gone either way. But everybody's saying, the referees have given Catholic the benefit of the doubt once again. I didn't really see it that way. Just it so happened to be against Catholic that made of course, the situation from last week, and that's what everybody's talking about with Brooks Wright's foot being out of bounds. But really, in real time, it was so bang bang. And from my view, live, I thought it was incomplete. But a great effort. Kendrick Joseph was a receiver. I gotta admit, Kendrick Joseph did a phenomenal job of giving that at least a chance, because he dove at it, and I thought it was going to be overthrown. So that was one heck of an effort still, even though the end result didn't go Rummel's way. Ended up happening after that was Rummel ended up turning the ball over on downs, and Catholic were able to score again. That was the Daniel Beal long touchdown run. I think from 54 yards out. I think it was precise yardage, but that got out Catholic up 28-14. Catholic got the ball late, and they were pretty much deep in their own end zone. So what they did with about 45 seconds left, Beal just decided to go in the back of the end zone and take 2 points. It was like 28-16 at that time, but Rummel, they weren't going to have enough time to score twice anyway. Time ran out, and Catholic was able to win 28-16 to go to the Superdome.
Right, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of controversy. Richie, I know really well. Actually entered. If you've watched previous shows, I've mentioned before that I used to not only intern at WGNL but also used to stream games at WGNL to help with stats and make sure the highlights are right and stuff like that. It's a pretty cool experience. But yeah, moving on to Division 2 selects. Uh, STM, man. I thought they're kind of in a little heap of trouble going against Shaw. Thought they may have been close for a little while, and it was. It
It
was a
was.
game for a little bit, and then the rain delay happened. And we'll always say about rain delays, sometimes it benefits the home team,
Yeah.
and they're able. So they fix their issues, and then they put up 69 points. Noise over Shaw.
They played
So
late in
60.
the night
The final
too.
score ended up being 69-30. What?
They played late in the night too
Yeah, it
because
was
the
pretty.
first thing I woke up and was like, "Oh, they played this game last night." I thought they were gonna be like everybody else and move it to the
Right.
next day, but they played it overnight. So
Right. Well,
uh,
the issue was that Shaw was on the West Bank, and that's about a little over
yeah,
2 hours.
hmm
Because you got to think about you got to drive through the West Bank, which is
hmm
a mess. Then you got
hmm
to drive through New Orleans. Then you have to drive through Baton Rouge. Then you're in Lafayette. So it was about a 2.5 hour drive, man. So they
hmm
had to finish that game. I can see why they did what they did. But the Cougars ran for over 500 yards of rushing, not
hmm
offense,
yeah,
rushing. And
yeah,
when you think of St. Thomas More, you think of throwing the rock. They
right.
ran for 500 rushing yards, and Hutch Swilly was the main leader. He had 219 yards, and
hmm
he scored a few touchdowns. I actually took a picture of it. Yeah, he had 219 yards and 3 touchdowns. Um, and and the 69-30 win over Shaw. I mean, that's a pretty incredible performance, especially against a defense that has held two of the best
hmm
offenses in the state back to back to just 13
Yeah,
points um,
yeah.
for both games. So 26 points total. So it's a pretty. So they've been pretty incredible all throughout the playoffs. But that STM. That's why they're in a third. I believe they're the second straight, the third out. I think this is the third state championship they've been in the last 4 years, or
Yeah,
maybe
yeah. That's right.
yeah,
That's right. Three
something
and
about
four
right.
years.
Yeah.
hmm
So I mean
Then you
that's
White
so
knocked them
you
out in the semis one year. Yep.
yeah,
So 4
right.
years.
That was 20. That was the year Walker was hurt,
Yep.
or he
Right.
was playing, but he was playing
He
through
was
like a broken
playing,
leg.
but I think that was his last game. I think at St. Thomas More.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think he was playing through a broken leg or something like that. So I remember he
yeah,
like broke it early in the year. So
yeah. I think he came back from injury or something. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and then moving on to our other Lafayette game. Early in the year, the game you went to, LCA put a beat down at
They
Turlings. I
did.
think it was like it was like 60. What was the final score for
It was
that game?
like
It was like
65-3 or 60. It was bad. Like it
it was
was
bad. Yeah,
shockingly,
yeah, it
surprisingly
was
bad.
bad. Well, good thing is, Jace, it seems like whatever game you go to ends up being a dud. But this time you didn't go, and
Well,
it ended up.
I
It,
mean, unless it was the first two Catholic games I went to this year. I mean, Catholic U High and Catholic
yeah, but you
Acadia
tend.
and Heron Crow was good too. But besides that, yeah, it's been kind of a rough year for me.
Yeah, yeah, and LCA managed to escape Turlings 42-35. I think everyone kind of expected to be a lot closer game this time
Mhm.
around, just because I mean the first game was a blowout.
Yeah,
Usually, by definition, the second game would be somewhat closer because
yeah,
the other team
right.
doesn't. The team that lost doesn't want to have the same
hmm
thing happen to them again. But unfortunately for the Rebels, they were able to pull it out. LCA was a little bit too much for them. Um, and by the way, Juwan Johnson did
Yeah,
break I believe the career touchdown record
yeah,
that
Nick
was held
Brissett.
by, yep, it was held by Nick Brissett. And this you would think that Juwan Johnson would be the player of the game. Actually, it was Jalen Noel.
Yeah,
He was a running back for LCA, 27 carries, 281 yards, and 211 of those were after contacts. And he
yeah,
had 2 touchdowns. And he will be part of our Player of the Week list. He will definitely be a
and
nominee. And
yeah. One
that's
good thing with that Grant is that he went off the first time they played too. So he went off twice. And like Juwan really didn't do that much the first time around. It was really the running game and the defense forced a lot of turnovers. So like Juwan didn't really need to do that much that first time around. So he was really somebody that's throwing his Catholic just couldn't really stop both times around.
Right, and so once again we do have a LCSTM rematch of last year's state championship game. I think this is the game. In my opinion, I think this is the game everyone's waiting to see
Yeah,
because last year was one of
mm-hmm.
the greatest games that's ever been played in Louisiana high school football history. Because the back and forth, like it was just, I was there at that game on the field, and I just remember they scored the touchdown to get behind one touchdown. I'm like, okay, they kicked the onside kick. I mean, there's no way they're gonna get the onside kick. Then they get the onside kick,
They scored the next play.
The very first play, it was a bomb.
Mm-hmm.
Sam Albin threw a bomb to Connor Stelly for the game-winning touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
Spiked the ball, and then my mouth was just like.
And it happened like in 30 seconds, 3 straight plays.
My mouth was wide open, so we're can't wait for that matchup. But yeah, moving on to non-select. Let's talk about it real quick. Cecilia defeated Northwest 55-18. The game you were at, they get rained out.
Oh
So
boy!
you had to leave that early, which I don't blame you because you don't know how late you're going to stay for that game because I think they played pretty late too. And then really Opelousas, a team we've talked about. You've talked about. Jared just mentioned before when we've had him on the show. Is a very talented team, and I expected them. At first, I was like, I don't know, they might lose against Bogalusa, but then again, I also was like, I could see them make it to go in the semifinals because I could see them beat Lutcher. And they beat. I actually told Jared's like, because he picked Lutcher. I was like, I don't know, Lutcher's not. I mean, if Lutcher doesn't have those dynamic playmakers like they did the year before, but Opelousas does. And Opelousas talent I was right because Opelousas beat them by 2 or 3 touchdowns, so it ended up being 26-10.
Yeah.
And I was like, but I can't see them being North Dakota. North Dakota's the defending runner-up. They have Luke Delafield. I mean, they have Dennis Dunn, who's been there, done that. I was like, I mean, this is North Dakota's bracket to lose.
Yeah, they were the most dominant team in this bracket.
Right, really and we both agreed that they're the team. Me, you, and Jared in our preview, our playoff preview, both agreed that they're the team to beat, and Opelousas beat them. And they're headed. I believe they're headed their first state title game ever.
This is
because it was the first because they made the semifinals. This is the first time since '94 that they made it to the semis. Now they're going to their first state title matchup. So, Jace, what are your overall thoughts about both games, Opelousas and Cecilia, and what do you hope to see from both of these teams going into that game?
Yeah, it's going. I was at the Cecilia game, and really, we saw Diesel Solari, Corey Broussard. They've been on our Player of the Weeks for a lot of times this year, and I got to see firsthand why they've been Player of the Week this year. Really, the running game and just whether it's Solari or Broussard, man, they can score, and the thing is, they're a run heavy offense, but they go no huddle, so it's just like they just keep coming at you, and they are very dynamic in running the football, and they can throw a little bit, offset you a little bit, but they want to get the football every single time. They like every kick was attempt was an onside kick. Like they want the football, that's for sure, and I don't blame them with those two guys. And they combined for 8 touchdowns in that game. Every touchdown was scored by either Solari or Broussard. They are indeed a very fun 1-2 punch in the backfield to watch. And talking about Opelousas, I was right there with you. And I believe I called it at the very beginning as well. I said that Opelousas is the team that's going to be in the semifinals. I mean, that's a team that's a double-digit seed that's going to make a run. Now, did I see them being North DeSoto? I did not, but I was not shocked. I had them being Letcher too, and making the semifinals. So that was a team just off their talent and just off they got a lot of swag too. They got a lot of confidence in themselves as well. We talked to Coach Jimmy Zachary. We also talked to Deshaun Ford, Corey Amos, all those guys in media day, and they were out of all the teams that showed up, and that's including Southern Lab that showed up too. they were the most confident bunch of kids as far as what they can do this year, and it showed. I mean, the talent was there, just got put together, and really, this is a scary team just because of their athleticism and just their talent. They are very scary, and they've shown in this run that they're way better than what their seeding really is. They really should have been a top. Last year, they were number 2 seed. They should really be a top 3 or 4 seed this year. But this game's gonna be very, very awesome to see because both these two teams played each other this year, and Cecilia and Opelousas. In fact, Opelousas was up big and looked like they were about to win, and Cecilia came back and beat them 25-22. So this is a sneaky game to watch out for. It's not the 1, 2, or maybe even 3 or 4 top game that everybody's looking for in the dome this week, but that is going to be a game that's going to be sneaky good to watch, and it should be very entertaining.
Yeah, I mean that, Jace. I agree with you. I think Opelousas has a lot of talent. They have a lot of D1 talent as well.
Mm-hmm.
And Cecilia, they have Corey Broussard and Diesel Solari, and Diesel Solari is easily one of the best athletes in the state.
Oh,
And I think
yeah.
he's a real sleeper for a lot of colleges out there. Not even just it doesn't matter if it's D1 or FCS or FBS or Division Two.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think whoever lands them is they're going to have a really special player.
And he still got another
And
year.
really, yeah, and that's the thing. He also has another year, so
Yeah.
he is. So I think this is the type of game where he gets to show
Really
himself in
strong.
front of all these coaches because there's going to be college coaches at those games.
Yeah.
They're going to be in the suites because I know this because my dad, when he used to coach
Yeah.
at Southeastern and Tulane,
Oh, yeah.
they used to have suites. So he's playing in
Yeah.
front of a lot of college coaches, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then also what I was going to say was too is that Cecilia might be the underdog in this game if you want in terms of talent.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about more about that in our
Sure.
next show. Where we're going to bring on Coach Held.
Right.
We'll discuss that with them too. But moving on to Division Three, non-select Union Parish, a team that really a lot of people slept on going to the playoffs. We all know that even though they lost Trey Holly, we knew they were still going to be pretty good. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anybody was like, can they do it a 4th straight time? Because they've been to 3 state championships, 3 straight state championships, and they lost all 3. And it's always hard to make it a 4. It's one to make it back to back or 3 times. They're making their 4th. They defeated Gina 24-16.
Mm-hmm.
Gina was undefeated currently. That they suffered their first loss against the Farmers.
Yeah.
Jamaran Island was huge again as he had 180 yards of rushing and 1 touchdown. What a player, man. To place a player like that in Trey Holly, it says a lot, about Jamaran Island and also the job that Coach Spadafore has made, has done this team, developing these younger guys. Because a lot of people thought, it's just all about Trey Holly. Well, he's shown that we don't need to have Trey Holly to be a great program, and he's shown that again. And then Sterlington, a lot of people they're my pick to win the state title. I don't think there were a lot of people.
It was the exact opposite of what I picked for the state championship. It's going to be. It was the exact opposite of what I picked.
Right, yeah, and Sterlington they had the hot hand. They won 11 straight games, but St. James has something to say. St. James won 28-17. In the second half, they had 2 huge goal line stands, which changed the whole pace of the game. Brady Williams was great once again. He had 155 yards and 1 touchdown and 84 yards of rushing and 1 touchdown.
Yeah.
Just a great performance by the St. James Wildcats. And then also Chacais Villanueva had he was like 80. He had 3 catches for 86 yards and a touchdown. One of the bigger touchdowns in the second half to seal the deal. So Jace, what do you have to say about both of these matchups? With Union Parish and what they've had to overcome throughout the year. Remember, I think they lost 4 games. 3 or 4 games. So they lost a good bit of games coming to the playoffs. And then also Sterlington. I mean, not Sterlington, St. James. With all the talent that they have, including Kobe Brown, who's the guy we actually invited to the bowl game.
Yeah. It's going to be pretty surprised. I thought it was going to be Sterlington. and Gina, but this is a pretty good second option here. Union Parish, I know they're trying to avoid being the Buffalo Bills, right? Trying to avoid 4 straight state championships, but Coach Spatafora has done an excellent job. I mean, he's up there. He's if there's a finalist for Coach of the Year, he has to be up there for what he's done. Because everybody was saying, "What are you going to do?" Not having Trey Holly back, and Jamar Allen, he actually scored in the state championship game last year, and I knew he was going to be a pretty good back for him. But yeah, he's hey, I mean, no matter what, you're in Paris, gonna have a big O line. You're gonna have a pretty good back behind them, and they're gonna run the football. And that's why they've been so successful in the playoffs, right? Because they can win when you have weather like this, right? That we saw in the semifinals when it's cold, it's muggy, it's gonna be tough, and you don't have to run the football and play good defense. And Union Parish can certainly do that. And just that experience, we're going to see. I mean, Gina had himself a special season, but Gina hasn't been in games like this, right? And it comes to a point where that experience does matter, and that really helped Union Parish get over that hump. And when you talk about Sterlington, was a little surprised by the score too. I thought it was going to be closer than that, but kudos to St. James, and really, they've really shown me a lot over the course of the year. Just seeing highlights of them throughout the course of the year. I was there at the jamboree, and Coach Davis wasn't really pleased by the way the team really played in the jamboree when I saw them. But they had the talent. The quarterback's really an athletic guy, Brandon Williams. You talk about Kobe Brown at receiver. He's as good as it gets in South Louisiana. So the athletes are there on defense. Like St. James is always going to be in the running for it. So that was very impressive. I was probably just as impressed by what they did on the road at Sterlington, and probably just about any other win this week for them to go up there and do that. So that really shows me a lot about them. And also keep in mind that St. James is really honoring their season for one of the assistant coaches. He passed away, and they really dedicated the season for him. So that was really special. And when you have something that like that to play for, it just gives you something even more to achieve. So they, the Wildcats have been very motivated this whole season, and it's come to this point. So really special season for them, and congratulations for them making the dome. So I'm very excited to see both the Farmers and the Wildcats play against each other.
Yeah, well, I'm really excited about that game too. These are two teams that who have a lot of state championship experience. Remember, St. James won in 2019.
They did.
Yep, and then so they still have some carry. And then Levante Davis is about led his team to state before because remember he was the head coach of Scotlandville in 2016,
Yeah.
so he's
Mm-hmm.
pretty familiar with being in the dome.
And he was like the
Um,
interim twice too.
yeah,
Started off as really the interim coach for Scotlandville, and then up being the full time guy. And the same thing here. He was the interim coach for St. James, and now he's a full time guy over here. So he does a good job of taking over programs like that.
right. Yeah, and moving on to our select division, we had two pretty big barn burners, Newman and Calvary Baptist.
Mm-hmm.
And Calvary Baptist pulled out a squeaker, man. They
Yeah.
won 35-27. Newman had the ball, like I think inside like their 10-yard line, with 31 seconds left, and Eli Friend threw a pick. Landon Sylvie picked it off on the goal line, and Calvary secured their trip to the dome. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
this is Calvary's. This is Calvary's. They will have a chance to win their fourth state championship, and this
Mm-hmm.
is also the first appearance in the dome since 2014. Even though they made I think it was 2014. Yeah, so I think it
Yeah,
was
because they
around
had the
there.
last state championship was in Natchitoches when they
Right,
were
yeah, because and then they won the state champ. Remember, and they also won the third in Natchitoches, like Jay said,
right.
because of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to keep that in mind. So, and also, this is Coach Queen's first trip to the dome. In his
Yeah.
41 years of experience, he's never been in the dome,
That's
despite winning the state championship with Calvary. Remember, it
right.
was in Natchitoches. He didn't win
Mm-hmm.
in the dome, so that's a pretty incredible feat for him.
Yeah.
Um, and then the Greenies fall kind of short again, unfortunately. And the Greenies,
Yeah.
yeah, I thought that we both thought they had a real chance to go in the dome, even though we
Yeah.
didn't pick them to go to the dome. We thought they had a hell of a shot, and they
The game was
put up
close.
a fight.
Yeah.
It was close, but unfortunately, it was not close enough. And unfortunately, they go back to New Orleans, and it sucks for them too because Coach Stewart's been really close the last few years with all the talent he's had in that program, but just pulled up short.
Now,
And
I would say one thing about it, about Newman. I know they come up short, but watch out for him next year. I believe
mhm.
next year with all those guys coming back, you get Bordelon coming back, you got Randall at running back, you got Eli Friend at quarterback. That's a junior heavy class. So next year, even though Randall's a sophomore, but still, next year, watch out. This should be the best Newman team ever next year. So they got a really good shot at finally punching that ticket to the dome.
Yeah, that would be a very interesting matchup between them. And let me get to that game before I start spoiling things
Oh
again.
yeah, you were there.
I was good. Yeah, I was there. St. Charles
Yeah.
Catholic U High. What a defensive barn burner, led by two of the best linebackers of the state,
Mm-hmm.
and Kyle Cannon, who will be a two-time All-State selection after this year, and then Keelan Moses, who's one of the top linebackers in the country for the
Mm-hmm.
class of 2025.
Yeah.
But Kyle Cannon was actually the one that he actually outshone
Yeah.
Keelan Moses, despite Keelan Moses having a lot of great plays in that game too.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle Cannon had 16 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, and a pass breakup,
Mm-hmm.
which was the on third down and overtime. He hit Emil Picarello when he was about to throw,
Mm-hmm.
and it led to the field goal. But before we get to overtime, let me talk about the game. So St. Charles Catholic's a two-time defending state champion. U High is coming in. They are seen as the more talented team per
Mm-hmm.
se. Emil Percarello is going to be a power 5 quarterback. Keelan Moses is one of the best linebackers in the country. Lamar Brown's going to be a top 10 recruit in the country for the class of 2026. He's only a sophomore, and they have
Mm-hmm.
a great receiving core as well.
Yeah.
Zay Martin, Marcus Dawson. They just have a lot of great players. And really, St. Charles only had their only big time recruit isn't even really a big time recruit, which is Kyle
Mm-hmm.
Cannon. He's committed to
Right.
Southeastern.
Yeah.
So this shows you kind of like the talent differential. But what the thing
Mm-hmm.
about St. Charles is that despite them being seen as a less talented team, they always pull off the victory.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in which they did. St. Charles. It was 7-0 for basically the whole entire game. They were about to kick a field goal to be up 10-0.
Mm-hmm.
Laramie Guidry, who's one of our commits for the bowl game,
Yep.
he blocked the kick, which sparked a long drive. Finished off by Granville Anderson, who caught a 4-yard
Other
touchdown pass
commit.
from Emil Picarello, who's also another one of our bowl game
Yep.
commits.
Mm-hmm.
And he made the game tie an extra point. The game goes to overtime. The vibes are good on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of nervousness, but the vibes are good on both sides. U High gets the ball first. They have a fumble snap, so they're at the 16-yard line. On third down, like I said earlier, Kyle Cannon broke up a pass from Emil Picarella as he's trying to make the throw, so they have to kick the field goal. U High goes for the field goal, but it gets blocked by Keaton Calmer.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, I said that I went to two games that both ended kind of similarly.
Yep.
Blocked field goal and the overtime led to the other team going on the field. St. Charles Catholic, their first few plays didn't work out, so they had to go for a field goal. Tyler Miliota, who kicked the game-winning last-second field goal against Lutcher early in the year, he did it once again, kicking the game-winning field goal to send the St. Charles Comets to their 5th straight title.
Yeah.
I mean, and also I just wanted to point this out too. One of the biggest things in this game that I noticed, St. Charles Catholic did not make any mistakes.
Yep.
Sure, maybe they didn't play the way they wanted to, but they really didn't make any big mistakes. I think they only had like 1 or 2 penalties the whole entire game. Like they made very few mistakes. I think that made the difference in that game because U High also in the second quarter, they were at the 3-yard line. Emil Picarella fumbles the snap and St. Charles recovers it. St. Charles really, the only mistake was the block field goal.
Right. And that
was it.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like I said this the time, Grant, that when you beat St. Charles Catholic is my vote as the most well-coached football team in the state of Louisiana. So if you are going to beat these guys, you're just going to have to make plays like that. You're going to have to block a field goal. You're going to have to make a play because they're going to be well coached. They're going to put all the players in the right position, and you're just going to have to beat them because you just can't rely on St. Charles Catholic doing what you just say, commit penalties, turn the football over, make silly mistakes. They don't do that. And it goes back, I mean, obviously continues with Wayne Stein. It goes back to Frank Monica as well, but you're just going to have to beat them. And the thing is, too, they're good high school football players. You got some talent, maybe not the caliber of talent that U High has, but you have pretty good talent. You got a lot of depth and just really good coaching overall. So you're just going to have to beat them, and that's just the way it is. And they're not intimidated. And that's another thing too. When the LCA had that run of 4 straight state championships, what came to an end, St. Charles Catholic beat the streak, right? St. Charles Catholic again, you're playing against a really talented U High team. Now a lot of people think we're pretty much unbeatable when it comes in this bracket, and St. Charles Catholic's not intimidated by them at all. So that's the thing too, and that's going to be something you got to take a look at against Calvary Baptist when we talk about it. So I'm at a point where I'm not picking against this team again. Like they just proved me wrong too many times. Like I ain't picking against them again. So it's that's St. Charles Catholic. You're just going to have to beat them because they're not beating themselves.
Right, and that's the thing. St. Charles is kind of similar to John Curtis, where it's just hard to pick against them, man.
Mm-hmm.
That like them, Notre Dame, and Curtis are just one of those teams. So you're like, yeah, they may not have. Curtis has talent, but usually for a long time, Curtis won a lot of those state championships without like having like those like major D1 guys, which is straight great coaching and grit and stuff like that. And like also like, but maybe not in the state, but Curtis will go up to like Hoover when Hoover was at his peak and just beat him by like 3 touchdowns. It was, it would be incredible to see. But also, I was also kind of wishing that like Newman won their game against Calvary Baptist to see that rivalry again because those two teams hate each other.
Yeah.
Despite them being private schools, Newman's like the uptown New Orleans preppy school. Just where all the rich people go, and the Mannies go there, and they're just uptight, and their classes. And St. Charles Catholic, it's just like I wouldn't say they're country, but they're like just hardworking, grit. We're in the river parishes. It's St. Charles versus all y'all. Like it's that attitude. So I just wish we saw that rivalry again because. And I think St. Charles wanted that too because they love beating up on Newman. Apparently, from talking to a couple of people after the game. But we got a great matchup. Them and Calvary. Calvary have said all years one of the more talented teams in the state, regardless of classification. So I'm very excited to see that matchup.
That Calvary offense versus that St. Charles Catholic defense is going to be a fun matchup to watch.
Yeah. Quick note before we go into Division 4, which will be our final division. We'll talk about. Abram Wardell has a touchdown to interception ratio of 43-1.
I saw that earlier. That's unbelievable.
Going into Division 4, starting with non-select. Haynesville defeated the number 1 seed Logansport 31-14. As I expected, I thought Haynesville. They're trying to make it back to this first state title game since 2017.
Yeah, you actually call that one. Yeah,
I did call that one. Yeah, I just thought that Haynesville was just a better team than Logansport, despite Logansport having a great season.
Yeah.
I just think that they have more experienced coaching. I think they have better players than Logansport does. I think just a better team overall, and that's nothing against Logansport. I just thought they were just a better team.
Yeah.
Oak Grove defeated Kentwood 49-28.
I call that one.
The thing was that I picked Oak Grove to win the whole thing. Then I kind of switched gears in the semifinals. To Kentwood because I'm like, oh damn, this Kentwood team is playing really good right now. It's hard to win under that water tower, but Oak Grove proved once again why they're the best team in Division 4, in my opinion. And I can't believe I doubted against them after I've been praising them all year. Shout out to Jackson Bradley.
You gotta stick with it, man.
I know I did. I know it happened to me too with Riverside and Assistant Catholic, but well, but let's talk about this game before.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about non-select before we get into those matchups.
Sure.
But yeah, like Jackson Bradley, he's a great player. I mean, he's
Oh
a
yeah.
catalyst of why they're able to defeat a very tough Kenwood team,
Jay
and who's
Freeman
even
too,
tougher.
the running back.
Mhm.
He had five
Yeah,
touchdowns, I believe. So yeah,
yeah, and really, he was probably the most valuable player in that game too.
yeah.
Um, Probably even more so than Jackson Bradley, which is kind of
Mm-hmm.
weird because we're always talking about Jackson Bradley,
Yeah.
but that's a hard place to. Not only is Kenwood a very hard team to beat, it's even harder when you got to play them under the blue water
Or in the
tower.
water tower. Yep.
Yep. So Jace, what do you have to say about that game, and then also a rematch between Haynesville and Oak Grove? That was a blowout. Remember, Oak Grove blew them out earlier in the year, so
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, it's kind of like that situation, right, with Turlings and LCA, and in the second time around, right? I mean, LCA they had to struggle to get that win, right? It was like 42-35, I think the final score was, but and they had to play on Saturday as well and finish that one too. But when we talk about Oak Grove and Haynesville, of course, I mean that's two of the most winning programs up in North Louisiana going against each other. So in Haynesville and Oak Grove. So that's going to be really a fun game. Coach Franklin, Coach Gregory, those are two coaches that have plenty of hardware in their trophy case. It's going to be really fun to see that. See like guys like Alonzo Jackson, right, for Haynesville, and see guys like Jackson Bradley for Oak Grove again, and you haven't seen Jackson Bradley play. I mean, he's pretty much if you think about Oak Grove and you think about big physical, just country strong kids, right? That you picture a guy like Jackson Bradley as a quarterback because he's big, physical, and he's not like a lot of guys you see around the state, maybe like a Bo Perez, a guy that's just huge. He's just a country strong kid, and he's just a gamer. He's just a baller. So it's gonna be fun to see him. James Harris is a southeastern commit too on the defensive side of the football. So there's going to be some good football out there. I mean, Oak Grove is trying to win another state championship, and Coach Gregory, what they've done has been pretty incredible in that Division 4 bracket. They moved up to 2A, and they've done a pretty good job. Now they're back in 1A, so it's yeah, they no matter what level. I mean, Oak Grove's been really good. So I've had Oak Grove winning this entire time. So I mean, I'm gonna have to. And now I had Logan Sport playing them, but I still have Oak Grove winning it. Well, I'm sure we'll talk more about it, but it should be fun to see two teams that we're used to seeing in the dome. It's been a while for Haynesville too. It's been a couple years since we've seen Haynesville in the dome, so looking forward to seeing the Tornadoes. And I know the fan base is super excited because I know they consider this a dry spell after all the many state championships they've won in years past. So I'm looking forward to it, seeing them again.
Yeah, the good thing is about me switching sides is that I picked Oak Grove to win the state championship earlier on, so I never really technically said that Kenwood was going to win the state title. So
Mm,
I'm
okay.
somewhat safe. I am somewhat safe.
Yeah.
But you know what? I feel really safe about because I am safe because I said this
Mhm,
I've said this the whole entire playoffs. I've said this the last 4 weeks. The Southern Lab will be
mhm.
your Division 4 select state champion.
Yep, mhm.
It didn't look like it at first because they're
I
down
mean,
70 in
I
the
was feeling
points.
good about it. I really was. I mean, with like a minute left, less than a minute left. I mean, all OCS had to do was pick up a first down, and they're going to the dome. But I don't think somebody told us OCS to. I don't think throwing it towards Dylan Day, who's a Miami commit. I don't think that's the best idea in that
Yeah,
situation. So somebody didn't get the message there. But still, Southern Lab, you gotta give kudos, right? They
yeah.
found a way to win the game when it looked like it was pretty bleak at them at that time.
All right, to add context to that, so Southern Lab beat Ouachita Christian 38-34. A
Great
lot,
game.
a lot of people picked Ouachita Christian
Mhm.
to win that game.
Yours
Me,
truly.
on the other hand, I'm probably the only one that picked Southern Lab. You
Spencer
picked Ouachita
Spencer picked it,
Christian.
did you?
Uh, who do you pick?
I think Spencer picked Southern Lab as well.
Did he? I don't even remember.
Hmm.
Because then again, it should never went to air because we had a lot of technical difficulties,
Oh
guys.
yeah,
That
it
was
should
my
have never went
computers.
there.
See, Jason's computer wanted to go back to Dolly World, so it just kind of
Yeah, I don't
died.
blame it.
I don't blame it. I don't blame it either. But yeah, so sorry we didn't have any shows last week.
That was the reason why.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys. But anyway, but yeah, Southern Lab was down 17 points. They ended up storming back. I believe it was to tie the game or go in the lead. But Washington got the ball back. They scored the game-winning touchdown. They kicked the surprise onside kick. They recover it. So all they have to do is either run the ball, take a knee, just fall down, play dead, roll on the ground. Just do something with the ground, okay? Not too much with the ground, but something on the ground. And I believe it was the very first play. They passed the ball.
Yeah.
It was like I think it was. I remember it was like the very first
because I think they might have still had to go and pick up a first down. Like I think it was Southern Lab might have still had all three of their timeouts left, and they still have to go and pick up a first down. But yeah, throwing it to that side. If you're going to throw it, I want to throw it towards Dylan Day's side. So obviously you're going to talk about what happened.
Yeah, and they threw it straight to Dylan Day. He ran it all the way back. If you saw on our Twitter, a huge interception with Dylan Day. There was zero context to that. We apologize, but it was the game-winning touchdown. Southern Labs going back to the Dome since 2021 for the first time since 2021, where they actually beat Ouachita Christian, ironically. So Jace, what do you have to say about Southern Lab? Because they've been one of the harder teams in the state. I mean, we're both at the game where they lost against Massive Prep, a game really, which they probably should have won, Jace. Yeah. I mean, we were both there. And actually, it was a 19-point comeback, actually. It was a 17 point. It was a 19-point comeback.
Yeah, it was bad.
Yeah, I mean, so it was 30-19. I'm reading this. It was 30-19. No. Yeah, and then Dylan Day won a 50-50 battle with Tate Hamby, who's another D1 prospect.
Well,
I believe he's going.
They're going to try to throw it to Tate Hamby. Okay, you try to throw it to your best player, but
you also threw it kind of
towards their best player.
So. Yeah, it was 30-19. We've all heard those words. 30-19. Was 37 to 30-19. That doesn't matter, but that's the famous. If you say 30-19 or 30-17 here in Baton Rouge, you know immediately what you're referring to. Is
like J.K. Lee is a Southern Lab guy, and Southern Lab's won a bunch of state championships, right? Southern Lab's won a bunch of games. Yeah. He said that may be the best play in the program's history was that play. I mean, that's saying, and I don't disagree with him. I mean, considering the circumstances.
Yeah, I mean, they came back from 19 points down against one of the best programs in the state, pound for pound. Ouachita Christian's beating 5A programs. Yeah. And soundly. That's a great offense. Tate Hamby. They have several guys who are going to play D1 college football, whether it's at the FBS level or the FCS level. It doesn't matter. They have dudes on their team. And a lot of people say this is the best Ouachita Christian team of all time, which is saying a lot. So I do believe, yes, that is the biggest play in Southern Lab's history, considering all the history they've had, and all the players they've produced. But I think right now you're kind of – Southern Lab really hasn't been like this good probably since the 80s and 90s. They used to be like dominant, but then they were so a solid program. But I think this is in terms of like competing for a state championship year in and year out, I think this is the peak of Southern Lab's success, something we haven't seen in a little while. But yeah, I mean, Southern Lab, again, I knew it. I'm so glad I was right. Shout out Coach Asbury and the boys. Yeah. You already know. Oh, yeah. But yeah, great to see them back in the Dome. And they will play Riverside Academy, a team that I was kind of going back and forth for. If you watched the playoff preview, I actually picked them to go to the Dome, but that switched to that Gestation Catholic. Because I was really back and forth with those two teams. If you even go back and watch the show, I think it was really back and forth with those two teams. Yeah. And I had such a Catholic beating Vermilion to go to the semifinals where they faced Riverside. And I was really back and forth on that matchup, man. Because I've seen Riverside play, and I know a lot about Central Catholic from I haven't gotten to see them in person, but I've watched replays of their games, highlights, and we covered them a lot on our Player of the Week show because of Chad Elsey, of course. But Vermillion ended up
scoring a touchdown on 25% of his touches. So there's a 25% chance of him scoring a touchdown. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, but they were actually up 22-0 against Vermillion, and I was like, oh shoot, I was right. And then Vermillion came back and won 39-35. And then they went against Riverside. And the thing about Riverside, they may not be the biggest team, but they're tough. They're physical. They have a great running back in Deidre Glassy, who may be the shortest man in the world.
Might be one of the most fun players to watch when you go see games. Might be one of the most fun guys to watch.
He is awesome. He's a great one of the best running backs in the state. At 5'3", 130 pounds, I mean, he can bust a long run running in a second. And he's a great player, almost like Darren Sproles. He's
like a Darren Sproles.
Like a Darren Sproles, yeah. And he's basically the heart and soul of the team. They have a great offensive line, great O-line and D-line led by Mario Alexander, who's an all-state guy. And they also have an 8th grader in Kendrick Johnson, who's a really good player as well. And I think he might, and if he gets a little bigger, I think he's going to be one of the top prospects in the state because he's playing this well as an 8th grader. And they beat Vermillion Catholic 33-7. Absolute thrashing. And I think this game actually might be a sleeper to a lot of people. I think a lot of people are talking about STM LCA. A lot of people are talking about Russ and Zachary, Catholic Acadiana, Calvary Baptist, and St. Charles Catholic. But this game's kind of flying under the radar, man. These are really good teams. I think this game might be pretty close. I think Southern Lab will win, but that's a pretty tricky match. So, Jason, what do you have to say about that matchup?
Yeah, well, you got to set the tone for the week, right? Because I believe this is going to be. I believe this is the first game, or is either game, Oak Grove and Haynesville, or Southern Lab and Riverside, but still, it's going to set the tone, and I think this is a game that could be sneaky. Like everybody seems to be, and you've been pretty high on Riverside, but this has been a type of team that just flies on the radar. Nobody really thinks about, I'm sure Sun Lab, and that's going to be the biggest thing for Sun Lab. Do they kind of overlook this Riverside team, knowing they probably went against Ouachita Christian, thinking that, hey, if we beat Ouachita Christian, we're winning the state championship. Do they sleepwalk a little bit against this Riverside team? So if they do, they could be in trouble just because of that team and just like having to beat these type of teams around the playoffs. They have like this underdog type mentality, right? That nobody really gets to respect them, or they get the respect or the attention. So if Southern Lab doesn't watch out, they could be in some trouble. So that's going to be key in that game. Is what kind of if Southern Lab is up for it. I expect Southern Lab to win this game, but they should be careful how they approach this game.
Right. I mean, you're exactly right. I mean, I think everyone thought that when they went to St. Martin's. Obviously, St. Martin's led by Harlem Berry. And we all expected it to be a close game, but we all kind of wrote off Riverside because we're sure, they're not the biggest team in the world. They don't really have any of those guys as special players. And then they whooped St. Martin's 55-14 or whatever. Or 21. I forgot the score, but they whooped them. And
it wasn't close.
So I think that's a team. That's a team you have to watch out for. And a lot of people slept on the whole playoffs. And I told people, hey, watch out for this Riverside team. Watch out for this Riverside team. And it looks like I was right because they made this to the dome. But that's it for our show today or tonight or in the morning. It doesn't matter. The show will be on. The show's on YouTube. You can watch it almost every week. Well, this actually might be the last week we might do it. Yeah, because it's the last week of high school football. We're going to do a recap after every game at the Dome. We're going to have that up immediately on YouTube after every day. We're going to be at the Dome.
Yeah, we'll do a day recap.
Yep. Can't wait to go to the Dome, experience a lot of great games for the state championship games, for the final high school football games of the year down here in the booth. but also watch out for the show. We're gonna have Eric held. It's gonna be a great show. We're gonna have that show up tomorrow. So check that out tomorrow. Whatever it will be up sometime the next day or two. So watch out for that. And Grant Chachere, Jace LeJeune, always remember to protect the boot.
Boot up, baby.